This week's video was inspired by a Twitter feed. Somebody in the special needs group decided to put out a tweet about encouraging people to say what's been working well for them, for their children at home. Sorry, you may well see a cat throughout this video because my cat's decided to sit on my lap and play. A real one, not a puppet this time. Anyway, so there were a lot of very positive responses about things that the children were finding easier when working from home. So what I thought I would do is I've talked through some of these ideas because I think schools could learn from this, and maybe when things return to whatever normal becomes, we can hopefully better accommodate our special needs children. Also, the experience of home education for a lot of these children will mean that the parent's voice, which is something we're encouraged to consider considerably following the Lamb inquiry back in 2009, I think it was, it's empowering the parent voice, because the parents actually will be able to say, look, when we were at home, when we were doing this, this seemed to work. This seemed to reduce anxiety, this seemed to create a calmer atmosphere, and one in which my child could actually learn. If we go right back to Maslow's hierarchy of need, written over half a century ago, well over half a century ago, it resonates today. Those basic needs are important. I've said it before. If people are going to learn, they need to feel safe, they need to feel secure, they need to have reduced anxiety. So one of the things that's come up quite a lot is about, while working from home, parents feel that their child's sensory needs have been better accommodated. So it could be that they are having a quieter environment. There are children who have said it's just easier when there aren't other people around. So the distraction of other people fidgeting, whatever, the noises, the atmosphere of other people can be difficult. Now, if that's one of the distractions, a solution could be, and not for everybody, a privacy board. Now, if privacy boards are only used, privacy boards are basically a board that it sort of comes above. It's very plain, very simple, and it's basically a stand-up board behind which people can sit at their desk and work. That will work for some, but one of the issues, especially in girls with, say, autistic spectrum, they might feel, oh, it's showing that I'm different, so they may not want to do it. So having that as a normal part of use within the classroom, so that anybody, not just somebody with special needs, if somebody feels they need to shut out distractions, they can have a privacy board. That might encourage the others who would benefit from it to use it, or else to have a quiet space. And I know there's not always space in the classroom, but maybe a spot in the classroom where there is less stimulating an environment. So, for example, no display in this area, just a blank wall, and possibly a privacy board. Maybe another thing can be ear defenders, and that can either be listening to music. Some children have said that listening to music calms them, or parents of children have said their children listening to the music really calms them. So either having headphones so they can hear the music that calms them while they're working, or else having them as ear defenders to shut out the irritating distractions. So these are things that we could do, because we know that the sensory overload can make it impossible, incredibly difficult for certain children to learn. As well as the quiet and the calm, which we could do in school, there's also the fact a lot of people are talking about the importance of the outdoors. Now, for some children, the outdoors can be distressing at the moment because it's not normal, it's changed. Things are closed that they would normally go to, the parks are shut, certain shops are shut. So at the moment that could be distressing, but those lucky enough to live near open spaces, woods, wild, sort of field areas, the sea where I am, these are spaces where the outdoors doesn't change so much, and they're finding this is very calming for a lot of children. But there's also gardens. Children can take those outdoor breaks more often at home. There's no reason why that can't happen in a lot of schools. A break outdoors can just reset the body, the mind, the spirit, and calm people down in order to then go back to their work. So making use of the outdoors. Bringing into that, I'm going to bring in now the idea of pets. You can have well-being dogs in school. My previous school had a well-being dog. My university has two well-being dogs, and these are a very good way, again, to offer calm. So when it all gets too overstimulating, too anxious inducing, too anxiety inducing, to have that time to be with the dog. It could be taking the dog for a walk around the premises, it could just be sitting calmly with the dog. Obviously the dog needs to be trained and the owner needs to be trained. You can't just bring in any old pet and say that's going to work. There need to be risk assessments. Yes, all these things need to happen, but they can happen. We can use pets, we can use animals to help reduce anxiety and support our special needs children. So another thing is, a lot of children with special needs do actually need some structure, but they also need flexibility. So I've talked before about having a structure whereby you create your own school, your own logo, and you have displayed on the fridge or wherever school time, home time, so that children, especially on the spectrum, don't get confused and they can follow the rules and the lessons of school time because they know it's not the normal home time. And then if we as parents see that getting a bit too much, we can switch it to home time. So there's a reason for the behaviours. The child can relate to that more. Structures matter, but what's happening is the people working from home with their children are able to be flexible with those structures, so allowing that child to finish that piece of work if they want to. Not, we've had half an hour of doing this, we're moving on to the next thing. Or the other way round, if half an hour is all that child can take, let's move on and do something else and come back to that. So flexibility. Now, I know that's difficult in secondary schools where you have timetables and different teachers for different subjects, but there could be a base where the flexibility can come into play. So having some sort of, we need the structure, yes, I get that, but flexibility within the structure could be really, really helpful. And then it's about noticing the signs of stress before they become too much. At home, that's easy. Parents recognise those signs in their children, and then they can say, right, we've had enough of this, we'll move on to that. Teachers need to be aware of those signs of stress, and they will be different for different children, and that's not easy. I've done the job of teaching in a secondary school where I might see 200 different children over the course of a week, but we do know our children. As teachers, we know our children, and therefore we should be able to spot those signs. My brother said to me earlier, I think it was last week, we remember the good teachers, we also remember the bad ones. There was a teacher who put me off history for years because of his sarcasm. It was scathing sarcasm, it wasn't witty sarcasm, and it just made me feel inadequate and stupid. Yet an English teacher, there's me with dyslexia, and I became an English teacher. Why? Because I had the most inspiring English teacher when I was in the equivalent to year 9. So teachers can spot these things, teachers can make a difference, spot the stress, put something into play, have some flexibility within the structures that we have in place. And with that, I've mentioned the idea of a logo on the fridge or something saying it's school time. Those visuals really matter. So visual clues, visual, being able to communicate without always having to use spoken, articulated words. So that could be using Makaton, it could be using cued speech, it could be using picture exchange. There's all sorts of things that are out there, and a lot of good schools are doing it, but there's no reason why these things couldn't happen more widely. Let's learn from these things. These are things we can do. Let's bring them into school. The other thing is, one of the things a few people mentioned is the idea that when they're at home there are naturally fewer transitions, and transitions are more paced. The whole pace is slower. There's no rush to do this because then we've got to get onto that because we've got to finish this so that we can do that. No, it calms down. The slower the pace, obviously not so slow you're not learning, but reasonably slowing down that pace and having fewer transitions. Is it possible that sometimes the teacher comes to the child rather than the child going to the teacher? Because when I was at secondary school a long time ago, we had a base as a form, and teachers came to our base. Now I know as a teacher that can be a bit of a pain, having to carry your stuff from one room to another. I've done that, and I like my base. As a teacher it's nice to have a base. However, the child is what matters, and for some children, if we've got a school with children who are really struggling with those transitions, can we reduce the number of transitions? Can we allow more time for the transitions? I was at a school where there used to be it was either a 5 or a 10 minute, there were 2 bells. One marked the end of a lesson, one marked the beginning of the next lesson. And that allowed time to move around the site, to get your brain out of one subject and into another subject. This flitting between subjects can be incredibly demanding for a lot of our special needs children. So reducing the transitions, making the pace a lot slower, it calms everything down. Now, if things are calmer and more relaxed and there's less anxiety, then it's easier for children to actually ask for help. One of the things parents are saying is, my children are asking for help. They're able to now do the I can't do it yet, something that we as teachers are trying to teach for that resilience, that not, oh, I can't, this is a disaster, but I can't do it yet. To be able to do it, I will need to. They can do that at home because there's less stress. They're calmer. Things are being modelled by the parents. Time is being taken. It is a slower pace. If we do that in schools, we can encourage that I can't do it yet, I'll be able to do it when. That resilience, that growth mindset, all these things that we want in our children, and we're beginning to really value, these could happen if we change our attitudes in school. And another one that is coming out everywhere besides the great outdoors is creativity. Now more than ever, we know that we need the arts. We need creativity in our education system, in our schools, because these are the things that are keeping us, not just our special needs children, us as a nation. This is what's keeping us going. It's exercise. All these videos and all this creative stuff that's coming out is keeping us coping within this lockdown situation. It's giving us an outlet. There are all sorts of draw along with, and this is a way to do a doodle, and let's watch this, let's hear this story, let's create something together, let's dance, let's move, let's listen to music, let's do exercise. Let's bring that back into school. It will help our special needs children. It will help our general population, not just the special needs. I've learned over many years of working with special needs that what supports our special needs children helps the others as well. Let's pull together, let's bring out the best from this, and let's learn, and let's come back to school with new attitudes, new techniques, new understandings, and let's make this a less anxious place for our children to be. Thank you.